Two F-16s cornered her in a restricted canyon. But when they forced her to land in a secret black site, they weren't prepared for the ghost they were about to meet. The truth was written on her tail. Captain Anya Spectre Petrova was threading the needle with her A-10 Warthog, a hulking beast of a plane, through a canyon of jagged, black volcanic rock in restricted Nevada airspace. The sun glinted off the sharp ridges, giving them a dangerous obsidian sheen. This was a training route so classified it didn't officially exist, known only as the Spectre Protocol. Suddenly, her cockpit screamed with radar warnings. A jolt of ice-cold electricity shot down her spine. Two F-16 Fighting Falcons, sleek and deadly, dropped from the blinding blue sky like hunting hawks. They boxed her in with a terrifying, beautiful precision that spoke of countless hours in the sky. These weren't amateurs. From their aggressive, perfectly executed maneuvers, Anya knew they were aces, likely out of Nellis Air Force Base. The best of the best. Unknown A-10, you're in violation of classified airspace. Follow us immediately or we will engage. A voice, crisp and authoritative, crackled through her headset. Anya's hands, covered in worn flight gloves, tightened on the control stick. Her mission was so deep, so compartmentalized, that she couldn't defend herself. These pilots, her own countrymen, had no idea who they were intercepting. Her orders were absolute. Maintain radio silence. Reveal nothing. The canyon walls, unforgiving and close, rose like teeth on either side. There was no room for error, no space for evasive action. She loved the brutal honesty of her Warthog. It wasn't built for speed or elegance. It was a flying tank designed to absorb punishment and deliver hell. Its deep, guttural roar echoed off the black rock, a sound of raw power. While other pilots flew futuristic jets, Anya flew a machine that understood war was an ugly, messy business. The lead F-16 pilot's helmet turned towards her, studying her aircraft. He was trying to figure out why a lone, unidentified A-10 was flying a ghost route. She wanted to scream at them, to tell them she was exactly where she was supposed to be, but she was gagged by her own mission's secrecy. A-10 pilot, respond immediately. You have 30 seconds to acknowledge before we consider you hostile. The voice came again, sharper this time, the edge of impatience cutting through the static. These pilots weren't playing games. Her training took over. Her mind became a cold calculator of distances, angles, fuel consumption. The canyon was a trap. Even if she could somehow outmaneuver them, the desert stretched for another 20 miles before opening up, and by then, they could have a dozen more fighters on her tail. This didn't feel like an interception. It felt like a precise, calculated capture. She keyed her radio, choosing her words with surgical care. This is Warthog 7-7. Unauthorized training mission. Request you verify with command before taking action. It was a gamble. Revealing her call sign was a risk, but it was the only card she could play. Negative, Warthog 7-7. No training missions are authorized in this sector. You will follow us to the designated landing site. Immediately, the lead pilot's voice held the unyielding authority of someone who had never been disobeyed. Anya's options evaporated like rain in the desert. She could try to contact her handler, but that would compromise an operation years in the making. She could try to evade and be shot down. Or she could comply and walk into a trap, hoping someone in the chain of command would sort this out before her world came crashing down. As the canyon walls began to recede, she banked her Warthog, the heavy aircraft responding to her touch like a familiar animal. She followed the F-16s towards a future she couldn't see, the irony burning in her gut. She was being hunted by her own side, a ghost in her own machine. The F-16s guided her toward a remote airstrip that materialized from the desert heat haze like a mirage. It wasn't on any map she had ever studied. The facility was cleverly disguised as a derelict mining operation, a collection of rusted silos and weathered buildings. But as they descended, Anya's sharp eyes picked out the details that betrayed its true purpose. Hidden sensor arrays, retractable anti-aircraft batteries, and a runway made of strange, black composite material that seemed to swallow the sunlight. This place was designed to be invisible. As her landing gear kissed the scorching tarmac, the familiar jolt of touchdown did nothing to calm her nerves. This was no simple landing strip. It was a state-of-the-art black site. Before her engines had even begun to spool down, a half-dozen black SUVs, their windows tinted to an opaque, menacing sheen, raced from behind the fake mining structures. They moved in a coordinated, predatory pattern that screamed of extensive training. This wasn't a response team, it was a capture team. Her radio, which had been silent, suddenly erupted with encrypted chatter she couldn't decipher. The fragments that bled through were chilling. Package is secure. Initiate protocol, Chimera. Confirm identity before approach. The voices were calm, professional, and utterly devoid of emotion. As she began her shutdown procedures, her eyes darted everywhere, cataloging every threat. Armed personnel in unmarked, deep gray tactical gear emerged from bunkers hidden in plain sight, their entrances disguised as rock formations. They carried advanced 433 Hong Kong dollars assault rifles with integrated smart sights, equipment that signaled a budget as limitless as the surrounding desert. Then she saw them. On the rooftops of the disguised hangars, snipers were taking positions, their rifle barrels glinting as they established overlapping fields of fire. It was a textbook ambush. No matter where she ran, she would be in someone's crosshairs. The lead F-16 had landed behind her, its pilot already climbing down. His wingman circled high above, a silent guardian angel, or executioner, ready to intervene. Anya tried one last, desperate act. She attempted to send a microburst encrypted signal to her handler, a single pulse of data. The moment she transmitted, a powerful wave of electronic warfare hit her aircraft. Her systems shrieked, and her comms went dead, replaced by a deafening white noise. They cut her off completely. She was alone. Through her canopy, she watched a figure emerge from the lead SUV. He wasn't in tactical gear. He wore a perfectly tailored dark suit that seemed absurd in the blistering desert heat. He walked with a deliberate, unhurried pace, the armed personnel parting for him like he was royalty. He was in charge. A powerful external speaker on the main building crackled to life, and his voice, amplified and clear, boomed across the tarmac, carrying an unnerving lack of urgency. "Captain Petrova, we've been waiting for you for a long time. Welcome home." The desert heat hit Anya like a physical blow as she descended the ladder from her cockpit. The air shimmered, distorting the figures of the men approaching her. The man in the suit, Director Hayes, stood back, observing, while the lead F-16 pilot, Major Kyle Vulture Vance, strode forward. His face, visible through his helmet's visor, was a mask of aggressive confidence. He was a man used to being in control, a predator in his natural element. He moved with purpose, his boots crunching on the tarmac, ready to confront the pilot who had violated his airspace. Anya stood her ground, her ice blue eyes meeting his approach without blinking. She expected to be handcuffed, interrogated, read her rights for a crime she couldn't explain. But as Vance got closer, his eyes drifted from her face to the fuselage of her A-10. He was close enough now to read the faded, stenciled tail number painted just below the cockpit. AF-81-0965. The transformation was instantaneous and absolute. Vance stopped dead, as if he'd run into an invisible wall of force. His confident stride vanished. His face, a moment ago tanned and weathered, instantly turned ashen, the color of the concrete runway. He took an involuntary step back, his body recoiling from the sight of the numbers. The expensive helmet slipped from his trembling fingers. It hit the tarmac with a sharp, sickening crack that echoed across the suddenly silent airbase. The sound broke the spell. The second F-16 pilot, a younger man, rushed to his leader's side, but he too froze when he saw the tail number. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The armed personnel, who had been maintaining a tense, professional perimeter, lowered their weapons. Not in surrender, but in sheer, unadulterated confusion. They exchanged bewildered glances, their tactical discipline dissolving into uncertain hesitation. On the rooftops, the snipers shifted, their scopes zooming in, trying to comprehend what could possibly neutralize the situation so completely. Anya watched the chaos unfold, her own confusion mounting. "It's just a number," she finally yelled, her voice cutting through the tense silence. "What is wrong with you people? What do you see?" Major Vance finally found his voice. It was a choked whisper, a sound of pure disbelief mixed with something that sounded like terror. He raised a shaking hand, pointing a trembling finger at the stenciled digits. "The Spectre Bird," he breathed, the name a reverent, fearful utterance. "But that's impossible. We were at her funeral." The words hung in the oppressive desert air, heavier than the heat itself. We were at her funeral. Major Vance's face was a canvas of conflicting emotions, shock, grief, and a dawning, terrifying understanding. The younger pilot beside him, Captain Chun, looked as if he'd seen a literal ghost. "Syria," Vance began, his voice gaining a strange, mechanical strength as the traumatic memory took hold. "March 15th, 2022. Operation Ashen Sword. We were flying close air support for a Delta team near an old ruin. The intel was bad. It was a trap." His eyes went distant, seeing not the Nevada sun, but a sand-swept, war-torn landscape half a world away. They had a whole network of surface-to-air missiles waiting for us. My wingman, Sam, was hit. I saw him eject, his chute deploying right into the heart of an enemy kill zone. The Delta team was pinned down, taking fire from all sides. We were minutes from being overrun. Anya's breath caught in her throat. She remembered that date. It was her birthday. She'd been annoyed about flying a routine training mission in Nevada, practicing attack runs on simulated targets. But as Vance spoke, alien memories began to surface. Flashes of yellow sand, the smell of cordite, the percussive thud of enemy fire against her fuselage. A splitting headache began to bloom behind her eyes. "We thought we were dead," Vance continued, his voice raw. "Then you appeared, out of a blinding sandstorm, flying so low you weren't even on our radar. You came in like an avenging angel." He pointed a trembling finger at her A-10. "That plane, that exact tail number." He described the battle with a horrifying clarity. "Your first pass was like surgery with a chainsaw. The 30mm cannon fire tore their main anti-aircraft nest apart in a storm of depleted uranium. You were drawing lines of death on the ground, explosions erupting in plumes of orange fire." Captain Chun, the younger pilot, stepped forward, his eyes shining with the memory. "We were screaming at you on the radio, trying to warn you, to coordinate with you, but you never responded. It was like you couldn't hear us, like an angel who couldn't hear our prayers, but answered our desperation anyway." The headache intensified. Anya gripped the side of her aircraft to steady herself, the metal hot beneath her glove. The images in her mind grew sharper. The satisfying, bone-jarring vibration of the Ju-8 cannon firing, the frantic red lights of missile lock warnings flashing on her console, a feeling of grim, fatalistic purpose. "You should have pulled out," Vance said, his voice thick with emotion. "But you didn't. You stayed low, making pass after pass, drawing all their fire. You took out their entire motor pool, silenced every gun. You gave us the opening we needed to get Sam and the Delta team out." He paused, swallowing hard. "The last thing we saw was a missile trail converging on your position. Your transponder went dark. Search and rescue found wreckage scattered over 10 square miles. The plane, it was obliterated." He looked at Anya, his eyes filled with a terrible grief. "They never found a body. We buried an empty casket at Arlington." Director Hayes, the man in the suit, stepped forward, his expression grim. "Captain Petrova," he said, his voice cutting through the haze of memory and confusion. "According to every official record, you died in action in Syria 3 years ago. So I need you to explain to me why you were standing here, very much alive, flying an aircraft that should be a pile of molten scrap." Director Hayes looked at Anya, his eyes holding the intensity of a man who had been chasing a ghost for 3 years. "Captain Petrova, What I'm about to tell you is going to defy everything you think you know about reality. I need you to listen. Anya's mind was a maelstrom of conflicting memories. The calm, simulated Nevada exercise and the fiery, desperate battle in Syria. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. 3 years ago, Hayes began, his voice low and steady. You volunteered for a top-secret experimental program. Its official designation was Project Chimera. The name struck Anya like a physical blow. Chimera, a word whispered in hushed briefings she couldn't fully recall. Memories, suppressed and fragmented, began to surface. The sterile smell of ozone in a briefing room, the cold touch of sensor gel on her temples, signing documents so classified they were printed on paper that would dissolve after reading. The technology was theoretical, bordering on science fiction. Hayes explained, choosing his words carefully. Quantum entanglement applied directly to human consciousness. We found a way to project a pilot's awareness across space and time, allowing you to operate a remote aircraft as if you were physically in the cockpit, all while your body remained safely in a controlled environment here. Major Vance stared, his face a mask of disbelief and dawning anger. Are you telling me the pilot who saved my men, who died for us, was some kind of drone? Not a drone, Hayes corrected sharply. The consciousness was real. The decisions were real. The sacrifice was real. Captain Petrova's physical body was here, flying a specially modified A-10 in a simulated training mission. But her consciousness was simultaneously and quantum-linked to an identical A-10 in Syria. A perfect, instantaneous synchronization between two states of being. Anya's legs gave out. She sank to the hot tarmac, the puzzle pieces of her life rearranging themselves into a terrifying new picture. She remembered the machine now, a complex helmet and cockpit interface that felt like it was rewiring her brain every time she used it. The Syrian mission was supposed to be a simple reconnaissance test. Hayes continued, crouching to meet her gaze. But when your squadron was ambushed, the system and your consciousness reacted. Operating in both places at once, you made the decision to engage the enemy. This is insane. Chun burst out. People can't be in two places at once. The quantum mechanics are beyond my pay grade, Hayes admitted. But the results were undeniable. The aircraft in Syria performed with the skill and courage of Captain Petrova because it was her. Every tactical choice, every bullet fired was her decision. Anya looked at her Warthog, the faded paint and small scars suddenly telling a different story. This wasn't just her plane. It was the quantum twin of the one that had perished in flames. What happened when the other plane was destroyed? She asked, her voice a whisper. Hayes' expression darkened. The severing of the quantum link was violent. The feedback should have killed you, or at the very least, left you in a permanent vegetative state. Instead, something unprecedented happened. Your consciousness absorbed the trauma and the experiences of your quantum twin. Your brain, to protect itself from a paradox it couldn't solve, suppressed the memories of the Syrian mission. It created a firewall, what our psychologists called quantum dissociation. Vance stared at Anya, his anger replaced by a profound sense of awe. So when we mourned you, we were mourning a part of you that really did die. Yes, Hayes confirmed. The consciousness that saved you was extinguished. What survived was the original Captain Petrova, left with the phantom limbs of memories that didn't belong to her. The nightmare she'd had for 3 years, dreams of fire and falling, weren't dreams. They were echoes of her own death. The truth settled over the black site, as heavy and silent as the desert night that was beginning to fall. The impossible puzzle was solved, leaving behind a picture that was both horrifying and magnificent. Anya slowly got to her feet, her legs unsteady but her mind, for the first time in 3 years, clear. The fragments, the headaches, the feeling of living a life that wasn't entirely her own, it all made sense. She looked at Vance and Chun, the men whose lives she had saved without ever knowing their names. A strange sense of peace washed over her. The tail number, she said suddenly, a final piece clicking into place. AF-81-0965. It's not a memorial. This plane, It's linked to the one that was destroyed, isn't it? They're the same machine. Hayes nodded grimly. The quantum signature is permanent. This aircraft will always carry the echo of its twin, just as you will always carry the memories of both versions of yourself. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, Major Vance stepped forward. He stood before Anya, his posture no longer that of an interrogator, but of a subordinate before a revered commander. He raised his hand to his brow in a slow, perfect salute. "We mourned a hero," he said, his voice thick with an emotion that transcended military protocol. "Today, we have the honor of welcoming a legend home." One by one, every armed soldier on the tarmac, the capture team, the pilots, even the snipers who had climbed down from their perches, snapped to attention and saluted. It was a spontaneous, powerful tribute to the woman who had died for them and lived to tell the tale. Hayes watched the scene, a rare crack in his professional facade. "Your sacrifice was real, Captain. It's recorded in a file the world will never see. But here, today, the truth is known." Anya returned Vance's salute, her hand steady. The weight of 3 years of confusion finally began to lift. She was Anya Petrova, but she was also something more. A soldier who had literally given her life for her country and had somehow found her way back. Her war was finally over. The legend of the Spectre, however, would live on, carried in the memories of the men she saved and in the scarred fuselage of the plane that had fought in 2 worlds at once. Anya Petrova's war is over, but her story raises profound questions. What is the true meaning of sacrifice when no one knows your name? How would you feel if you discovered a reality you never knew you lived? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and please comment with respect for the real-life service members who inspire stories like these. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales that challenge what you think you know.